may begin.
I will never forget that fateful night on August 9, 2014. The state of Missouri will always remember this night. This was the night when a young African-American boy by the name of Michael Brown was shot to kill and killed to death in his hometown, Ferguson, Missouri. His death sparked racial protests and racism around the nation. His death and these protests are what led me here today to the Rotary four-way test. We will ask, should we put more emphasis on racism and racial tension as a whole? And use this and put this to the Rotary four-way test. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And last, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Now, let's look into my first area of concern. Is it the truth? We see that yes, it is the truth. Racial tensions are on the rise in the United States and are continuing to incline. And unless we take a stand, these will continue to grow around the United States. Now, I remember a certain Nobel Peace Prize winner by the name of Martin Luther King Jr., who once said, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created," what? Equal. Martin Luther King Jr. felt that there is more than just our race or the color of our skin. Abraham Lincoln and our nation fought the Civil War over the simple concept of racism and slavery. Yet still to this day, we are struggling with this concept. Now that we have seen, yes, it is the truth. Racism is on the rise in the United States. Let's look into my second area of concern. Is it fair to all concerned? Now, we see that, no, racism is not fair to all concerned. Racism is not fair to the person or people these comments are directed at. Now, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, they say racism is the poor treatment of or violence of a person because of their race or skin color. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. would later say in his speech, "I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Isn't that what we're here doing today? Judging each other by the content of our speeches. Now that we have seen that, no, it is not fair to all concerned, let's look into my third area of concern. And the third point of the four-way contest and the four-way test is, will it build goodwill and better friendships? We see that no, racism has not built goodwill and better friendships. That many African Americans and people around the nation feel like they are discriminated for the color of their skin, for their race. Now, in the case of Ferguson, Missouri, we see that racism has torn this state apart and has destroyed this and has built racism and racial tension around this country and around this state as well. And yet, we have seen a community, the surrounding communities, build up and take a stand against this. And we have seen goodwill and better friendships built because of this. Now that we have seen the third area of my concern in the Rotary four-way test, let's look into my last and final area of concern. Is it beneficial to all concerned? We see that no, racism is not beneficial to all concerned. In a poll, 51% of Americans accused and outward appearance expressed anti-black sentiments in a poll. This is a 3% increase in 2008. We are still rising in racial tension. Racism is still on a rise in the United States and will continue to rise unless we take a stand. Now, we need to understand that there is more than just color. And until we realize that as a community, we can never truly be whole. Now, racism is a sensitive subject in the United States. It always has been. But for Ferguson, Missouri, this simple concept ultimately ripped this community apart and took a young boy's life. Now, for Ferguson, not only do they feel discriminated for their race, I have many African American friends, and I see them walk in and day out and being discriminated by what Martin Luther King Jr. said, by the color of their skin. and not by the content of their character. Now, until we realize that there is more under that skin, there is more meaning inside of us, we can never truly be